All right, music students, we are back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
And I think recently we did a thing where we said we were back-ish.
We've been back-ish for a while. If you've been on our Facebook group, the Music Student 101 Facebook group, ! Look at that on Facebook. You'll see we've been posting some videos and trying to remain in contact as much as possible.
Absolutely. We just kind of answer some questions and talk about music. We did that for episode 90, A, B, and C.
B, and C.
And now here we are numbering up to 91, an official
podcast version of the podcast.
Yeah, right. Okay, so dig it, man. We're going to talk about what you guys just heard, the intro music. And again, you probably gathered that this is our listener compositions episode, part 3.
Long overdue.
This was the episode that we were going to do right before that corona pandemic hit.
Thing happened.
Yeah, right.
And continues to happen. But here I am in my basement on my computer. Here you are in your room upstairs, office. Yes.
On your computer.
On my computer. And thanks to the miracle of technology and a lot of fiddling with said miracle of technology on our part, we are now capable of bringing an actual podcast. So
Right. You guys probably know this by now, but I am Jeremy Burns, your host.
I am Matthew Scott Phillips, your co-host.
So dig this, Matt. After I'm done with this recording, I'm actually running off to a band practice.
Oh, wow.
Actually playing music with people.
Oh, wow.
In the same location.
How long has it been since that happened?
Well, actually, we've been kind of doing this off and on, and we just kind of got into it. We kind of got our groove on right before the epidemic happened, and then during the epidemic, we managed to audition a keyboardist, Angela, who passed with flying colors in both personality and musicianship, and have her join the band. And we get together at our drum player Jim's place, and he has this big open garage where we can all stand a good distance apart and have the fans going in a cross breeze. And it's kind of fun, Colin Soniat, who we had for the singer-songwriter episode.
Right, yeah.
Who I've really been playing music with for the longest of just about all my music buddies, except for Brian Malloy, I guess you could say. But it's his little project with my cousin Jenny. She's a vocalist. And we got a drum player and a keyboard player and myself, and then Colin on guitar, myself playing bass. And we really don't have a name yet, but one strong contender is Jenny's Mixtape, because we play a bunch of stuff from the 80s and 90s, mainly covers from the 90s. It's basically a covers band, Our lead vocalist, Jenny, is very, very to the note of the album kind of thing,
Yeah.
And I've always been a little bit more loose, but now that we're playing some more of these pop tunes, there's a lot of cues that occur that kind of transcend the standard rock formula, you know what I mean, that I'm kind of used to. So it's been good for me. Shall we move on?
Yes.
That was just a little side conversation.
Tons of music. This is just what happens. Okay, we digress. We go off on pointless tangents, and but hopefully we get your brain working a little bit. We're not just here to plow through music lessons, right?
Right. Hey, speaking of our brains working sometimes. We have a new review, Matt. Would you like to hear our new review?
I would like to hear our new review. I can't believe anybody's still listening to the podcast after we've gone for like 4 months without a new. But yeah, okay.
I think you're gonna get a kick out of this, Matt, because it was a 5-star review. Okay.
Yay! Thank you very much.
It's a 5-star review from FL Ha GHHJ.
GHH. Okay.
Anyways. From Apple USA, from somewhere in the States. I'm guessing Florida because I see FL, but I don't know. Anyways, they say, confused. Love the show, but did Matt misspeak when he said Lydian did not have a perfect fifth?
Did I misspeak?
I think you did, Matt. That was actually a quote. I was able to since then edit it out.
Yeah, okay.
It was on our last. We were talking about modes on that last episode 90C or maybe 90B One of those, yeah, 90B.
Oh, yeah. Was I thinking Locrian or something?
Yes, I think that's
okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
I think that's exactly what happened.
Ooh, ouch. Yeah. Sorry. I probably meant Locrian does not have a perfect fit between the tonic and dominant. Lydian totally does.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So sometimes I find myself editing things I say when I've just gone into autopilot and just honestly wasn't even. It's like something took over and it was wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And it was totally wrong. Lydian, Locrian, tomato. Locrian absolutely does not have it, but Lydian absolutely does. Lydian has a raised fourth.
Yes, it does.
Compared to the major scale. And then following is a half step up to a perfect fifth, absolutely. So,
well, I wanted to give you a chance to come clean, Matt, and go ahead and address that head on.
I appreciate it. Sorry for the confusion, and thanks for calling me on it.
If you go back to listen to it now, it's been edited out, but I couldn't edit it out of the video, so there's that.
Well, there's that. Oh well.
So, anyways,
see, everybody's wrong sometimes.
Totally. Yeah, I appreciate that they gave us the review, but the only problem is now that's the first thing everyone sees when they come up on the podcast and check our reviews. So
we just need more reviews, guys.
Everyone give us one review that'll take that little thing off the page that we've addressed. Indeed.
Yeah, but they gave it 5 stars, so sounds like they like the show. So
it didn't mess with our numbers, and they were absolutely right. And I appreciate those things being addressed. Because otherwise, I would have forgotten about it. I edited. I listened to it 100 times. I didn't even hear that and didn't even notice it. Sometimes I go into autopilot mode.
Sometimes editing something for the 100th time, you're not as good an editor as the first time, right? Because you've gotten used to hearing something so much.
I'm listening for all the crap in the background noises. Anyways, so that was fun, wasn't it?
Anyways, that was fun. Yep.
And I do want to address or give a shout out to one Patreon patron before we get into it also, if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
We have a friend named Nicholas Ramirez.
Nicholas.
Who found us on Reddit.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah. A lot of people are finding us on Reddit. Those who read Reddit. Those who have read it.
Those who read Reddit, who have read Reddit.
Okay, so Nicholas says...
I've read it.
I've read it. So Nicholas says... Piano and guitar are my main instruments. I'm about to go back to school and study music composition to become a composer and eventually a professor.
Why? No.
Hey.
No, Nicholas. No.
How do you like that?
No, Nicholas. Don't.
Matt.
Nah, I'm being facetious, obviously.
This is supposed to be a nurturing atmosphere.
I'm kidding. That's wonderful news. Congratulations, Nicholas.
We are proud of you, Nicholas. He says, I am currently in the middle of a long-term project to grade a bunch of music. I can confidently say that my favorite music is soul music from around the mid-60s to 70s, mid-70s. And my second favorite is hip-hop from the late 80s to the mid-90s. Interesting, huh?
He picked the golden age of those two styles, I think. Yeah.
I would totally agree.
Man. In both cases, yeah.
I got my little hip hop mix that I listen to on my phone, my little playlist, and it is mainly bands or hip hop acts from the 80s, 90s.
Yeah,
Run DMC.
Yeah, I was going to say the Run DMC.
NWA.
Era. Yeah.
Anything Dre touched,
Yeah, right.
But anyways, he says he grades on a 7-point scale and has cataloged and scored around 800 songs so far. Now, I'm not sure what I guess I need to get more from him about what the parameters are and what he's grading them on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and why a 7-point scale?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, does he mean 1 being the lowest score and 7 being the highest?
I think 7 is the highest, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting,
isn't it? So it's cool to have fun little projects like that, I think, especially revolving around music.
Yeah, we'd love to know more about the grading scale Nicholas is using, right? And by what parameters, does he grade these things,
Mm-hmm.
And this is good practice, Nicholas, if you're going to be a music professor one day. Take it from me, a lot of your life is grading.
Yeah, right.
And there is get as much practice as you can get now.
Maybe that's what he's actually. Maybe that's what he has in mind.
Yeah, I struggle with making my grading as unarbitrary as possible, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I do my best to take my personal opinion out of it and grade, just universally on a set of parameters. But of course, that's never 100% realistic. I mean, the very parameters are to an extent arbitrary and subjective. So,
Right.
it can be a tough thing.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing is to be fair to everybody. It's to grade everybody the same, no matter what your metric or set of parameters is to grade everybody in the same. That's step number one. Be as fair as possible.
Yeah, right.
And then step two, be as objective as possible.
So if you're into blues, if you're into like R&B and hip hop, don't poorly grade a bluegrass song. Don't give it an F. Because it's bluegrass,
right? Yeah.
I'm sure.
Don't rake "Heard It Through the Grapevine" poorly just because you don't like those raisins from the '80s, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's still a great soul song.
I'm sure Nicholas is taking all those things into account.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he is.
Well, let's move on to the music, shall we?
Absolutely.
A quick little public service announcement, as I like to do before these episodes. I recommend you put on a good set of headphones.
Yeah, good plan.
Close here if you can. I got these little crappy earbuds, man. They come in this little case, they self-charging case, and they're wireless Bluetooth earbuds. And I would not be listening to this music on those damn things because they're just... It's like you wrapped a towel around the music. You know what I mean?
Nothing's worse than a crappy set of earphones.
It barely suffices for talk, podcast kind of stuff. But anyway, that's just one big deal because you also get a good stereo image. You get to really appreciate the separation of the instruments if properly done and mixed and produced, which a lot of these are very nicely done pieces of music.
Yep.
So aside from the headphones, I would also recommend that you guys go to our website at musicstudent101.com.
Yes.
And click on episodes, and you'll go to this episode, number 91, and you'll actually be able to see the composers that did give us music notation. You'll be able to see that there and follow along.
Yes. Recommend you do so.
Indeed. So what we're going to do is, what we normally do is in these episodes is we'll actually say just a little bit about the composer, play the music, and then we're going to go back and talk about it. And we'll play the music by itself, and then we can talk about it while listening to it and point out some cool little moments and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What else? Now, Matt, you haven't heard a lot of the backstory. You've heard the music at this point, but you don't know a lot of the backstories. So to me, that's kind of fun.
That's always fun.
Yes, it is.
Matt torture.
I try and give you just as little information as you possibly need because I like that natural reaction. Like the one I got when I told you about the review we just got.
Right.
But anyways, so dig it, man. This was our friend Badri.
Right. Who we have talked to before and
we've had a great
mentioned on the podcast, friend of the show.
Yeah, he's from Chennai, India. And he's mainly a bassist. But he seems to just know music in general. The things I've heard him put together in his ear and everything. Well, you heard it. That was the opening track.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a piece called Beyond. Okay?
Okay.
Now, since we heard it without interruption at the beginning of the show, and I don't like talking over pieces that have lyrics and words, we're just going to give you the opportunity to go back and listen again, knowing now what you know, what you didn't know the first time you listened to it, right?
Right.
Okay. So, Badri says, these verses are from the point of view of a man who's half mad trying to undo his past. Hence the disjointed phrases and incomplete sentences. The bridge sections are where he hears voices in his head, thanks to the insanity,
Yep.
telling him what he wants can never happen. You also hear some whispering in the background during the bridge section, which is actually reversed audio of me and the singer talking about why he needs to move on.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting, huh? The chorus is actually the guitar solo in the end, where he finally decides to move on.
Interesting. I like it already.
Okay, so the first section, which is kind of the verse, I guess you would say, we we pretty well established ourselves in E minor.
Yep. Yes.
So it's like boom, 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 to C sharp diminished. C. Okay, so E minor, one chord, right?
One.
Now we end up on okay, so one. Let's see here. Where's my E minor? And we end up on a C. Six chord, diatonic to E minor.
1 to 6. Yeah.
But that chord in between, that C sharp diminished chord. This guy.
That guy. Yeah.
What is that guy? That little guy.
I would call that a common tone diminished 7.
Okay.
And this is bound to make its way onto a future episode at some point, I'm sure. But the TLDR of this chord is that we can take a note of a chord, for example, E minor, right? Hold. We really only need to hold one of those notes there, spin one of those notes. In this case, we actually have 2, right?
Yeah.
But we only need one. We have keep 2 of those notes in common, and then build really any kind of diminished chord around it that we want. So an E minor chord has E and G in it. We hold on to E and G, and around E and G we build a diminished chord by adding C sharp, E and G. Yeah, and we could have also added C sharp, E, G, and B flat if we had really felt like it. You know, I don't remember if he did.
No.
Yeah, so it's just a diminished triad. So C sharp, E, G, holding those 2 notes in common, right? And then moving to C, which still has those 2 notes in common, right?
Yeah.
So this is a kind of dissonant embellishment, right? Because over the long haul of this chord progression, we have what amounts to a Riemannian transformation, right? A neo-Riemannian transformation down a major third from E minor to C major, holding E and G. Yeah. On our little journey from E minor to C major, we have crossed through this embellishment that is a common tone diminished 7 chord.
Yeah. So one more time, we had the E minor.
E minor.
We had these 2 notes.
E and G. Yep.
And then we go to C sharp diminished.
C sharp, E and G. Yep.
And then C major.
C, E and G. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Very nice technique.
There you go. That's just off the top of my head ramblings about a particular diminished chord. I'd love to see the music.
And that's just the first section. Next.
That's just the first 2 notes. The first 3 chords, right?
All right, so let's move on. This second part, we got the same thing happening, okay? It's like C sharp diminished to C a couple of times. And then the third time. And then we had this as F sharp to F. Or I guess you would say G flat to F, right? So again, it's musically it works, but it does take a little bit of creativity to theoretically explain what's going on here, right?
Sure. Explaining anything well, I kind of seem to always take a little bit of musical creativity, theoretical creativity. I like that he sort of established this motive, this half-step resolution motif that is starting to sound like a structural element to this song, right?
Yeah,
it's not just something he did once and then moved on and created a. I tell my composition students all the time, it's a symbol of the growth of a music composer to go from idea into song to an idea that is the song, right? Yeah. This song is about this idea, and to the extent that you can make this song about the idea of half step down resolution, of the incomplete chromatic upper neighbor resolving down, that becomes a motive that sort of holds the song together, and that is the symbol of a more mature composer than someone that would just write a great chord progression for the verse and then a completely different, maybe a similarly great but completely different chord progression for the chorus, and
There's an element of continuity throughout. And in this case, the idea you're talking about is not so much a melody or a hook, it's a movement.
It is.
It's a motion.
It's a movement. Yeah. It's an interval relationship of a half step moving down. Yeah.
And again, we're talking about this situation where we had the C sharp going down to a C, and then we had an F sharp or a G flat moving down to that F. So, yeah. Okay, so on the final part of this, it's kind of like everything kind of and mellows out, and then we get this chord progression that comes up. D major at B flat to A major.
Again with the half step. Again with the half step around what is now a perfect fourth down. Instead of a perfect fifth down, but again with this half step preamble to our next chord. Again with this Riemannian transformation from D major to B flat. But this time via. And this time, then moving half step again into A. Now this is a Phrygian half cadence. This is a
I was going to ask about that because we normally see that in minor, right? But this is in D major.
Right. Well, yeah. There's such a thing as a borrowed chord in a major scale that is a flat sixth borrowed from minor.
Aha. So you can do that. That's cool.
So you can do that. We did a whole podcast on borrowed chords, and that almost certainly came up. That one's been a while.
Right.
So B flat to A, kind of a Phrygian half cadence. Again, what seems to be a very salient, sort of musical notion in this piece of music is the idea of approaching a chord from a half step away melodically. We've done that via common tone diminished 7 chord. We've done that via what amounts to 5 of 5, moving to a different predominant chord in the Neapolitan 6, F sharp down to F.
You're right.
And now we've done that by means of Phrygian half cadence in 3 different spots along the chromatic scale. We have approach chord by half step. This strikes me as a very salient and key musical idea in this piece of music, right? And you can hear that. You can hear that. That's what is holding it together as a piece of music. We're not just jumping around the chords. You can hear this idea at work. It's part of what's giving it the particular mood and tone that it has. This is unique to this song.
Very cool. And just to recap real quick, the Phrygian half cadence, which normally happens in a minor key, if we were in D minor, it would be actually the 1 to the 6 to the 5.
Flat 6. Yeah.
Flat 6 because we're in minor, right?
Yeah.
But it can happen in major. Same deal, just be a borrowed chord. 6 borrowed 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Borrowed flat 6. Yeah.
Borrowed flat 6. All right, man. Good job, Buck.
Yes, very nice.
The only thing I'll say about this song when you go back to listen to it, listen for production value, because in my mind, this is an idea of really good production value in my mind.
Yeah. And one thing I will say about it is what we didn't talk about in our discussion was how the lyrics relate to the music.
Yes.
And think about that. Think about where what words are emphasized and de-emphasized. I won't prejudice anybody by saying what I think, but just think about that as you're listening.
Absolutely. So go back to the top of this episode, give that one more listen, and then come back to where we are now, and we're going to move on, okay? To our next composer. Thanks again, Buck3. Great job, man. We're so proud of you. And to follow up, he is in that Liverpool Academy of Music Academy.
Excellent. Good. Yeah, he was wanting to get into that, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he's on track.
Good.
And
Congratulations.
We're excited. All right, next we're going to move on to our friend Eamon Kelly.
Eamon Kelly.
Now, Eamon had a composition in our first listener compositions episode.
Indeed. So let's see. So Eamon Kelly has written this piece called Downfall. And of it, he says, I had been working on this one for a while, trying to use some of the concepts we've been learning. I ended up writing the piano first, then added the strings, cello, viola, and violin after. The middle section is an attempt at 4-part counterpoint. Oh, wow.
Ooh.
I think I avoided parallel fifths and octaves, but can't be sure. Whoever it really is.
We'll see if anyone can hear that or not. Matt, you'll probably hear it before I do if it even happened. Let's go ahead and listen to it because I don't want to say too much about it until we just kind of hear the song or I guess the composition, I would say. Mm-hmm. So this is Downfall by Eamon Kelly. So, well done, Eamon. First listen, what do you guys think?
Yeah, very emotional, very emotional, and I like the sort of clear progression through sections. You know, you could definitely hear the structure at work.
Yeah. Let's hear. Now that we've heard it, let's hear a little bit more about what Eamon has to say about it.
All right. So Eamon says, I also tried to use modes to explore color a bit, with the middle section being G major / E minor, and then G mixolydian before heading into the main theme again. as well as the Phrygian-based ending.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In general, I went for a more major-based beginning into a minor finish. Hence the title Downfall, with the modulation to E minor using the same general theme after it appears a second time.
Uh-huh.
Finally, I had wanted to work in a Neapolitan sixth chord after learning about them, but ended up just using the flat 2 chord. Just a quick aside here. I wouldn't beat yourself up about that too much. The flat 2 chord in root position, which is what I assume you mean, that shows up in the music repertoire fairly. It shows up enough to be considered the second most common is the Neapolitan in root position, aka flat 2.
Uh-huh.
I also really liked how powerful the E sus2 / B sus4 to B to E minor with the root going E D sharp E sounds. Nice stuff, especially with the dark E Phrygian ending in general. This is really interesting. In the score, I have it as B sus4 over E, but technically that is the same chord as root position E sus2. So if you have a B sus4 chord, and I think what Eamon is talking about is triads. I think when you bring it out into 7 chords, it gets a little less this. But with a B sus4 chord over E, so the E is the bass note, E is the lowest sounding note, you're going to have the notes E, B, and F sharp. Whereas if you have an E root position sus2, you're going to have an E and and you're going to have an F sharp and you're going to have a B.
Yeah, same notes.
So the same 3 notes, and he says he's using that to create ambiguity about where those notes are going.
Yeah.
He said what I ended up doing was intentionally using that as an ambiguous chord. The expectation of going back to E minor is almost met with E sus2, but in reality is B sus4, and that B sus4 leads to 5-1 at the end. Getting pretty clever there.
So the effect is then you have the E sus4 chord going to the B, and then with the D sharp in the bass, the third in the bass, and then going back to E minor.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And our final thoughts from Eamon regarding this.
Yeah, also, I'd be curious on your guys' thought on that G arpeggio at the end. Not sure if it makes more sense to label it as a chromatic movement from flat 7 to major 7 and back, the 7 of E minor, or if it makes more sense to think of it as a G major with a flat 6, which would be E flat. I believe this would change how it's written on the score too, from D to D sharp, D, or to D, E flat to D, right? It certainly can. The way things are written on the score is all about how easy it is for the pianist to play, right? And there's room for varying opinion on that, but most pianists I talk to, I feel like would say D, E flat, D is going to be easier for them to hit the right notes without having to think too hard, because they will see physically the change of actual note, rather than just the addition of an accidental. Not that you can't find plenty of people that will say, just change the accidental, it's fine. Right. But so the score's main job is to do that, not to really, in some ways to reflect the theory, but when the two are at odds, go with what's easiest to read.
Yeah. Well, now that we know a little bit more about it, shall we go ahead and listen one more time?
One more time.
So again, one more time, this is Downfall from Eamon Kelly. To me, this is it sounds like something vital is occurring.
You can hear that the sort of the minor second as a textural theme.
So there's your minor 5, or depends on what key we're in, right? Because we start off with a D major, that was an A minor, and back to D major. Now this is a G, I don't see a third.
I do see an E flat, which is, and then we're back to D.
Yeah. Still using this little piano high-end kind of theme and just kind of working around it. Time change. He's calling this 1 measure of 7, 2 measures of 3. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Now this is interesting. Sounds kind of like the calm after the storm.
Mm-hmm. This is the counterpoint section, right?
I believe so. This is the middle section, yeah. It's like we've achieved victory, but it wasn't easy, you know? Not everybody made it. Into this odd time part.
Yeah.
I love this. This is that Phrygian thing I think he was talking about, right?
I think you're right, yeah.
Ooh. Well, it's the same thing, only with pizzicato.
Yeah. Here comes that G arpeggio with the chromatic neighbor tone. And then an ambiguous B sus chord.
Wow, man. How did you feel about that? I love that ending.
Yeah, I love that ending. That's a very powerful piece. There's a lot of complex relationships between the chords there. You know, I mean, there's a lot of. If I had to say one thing about the piece, just on the sort of flyby analysis that I did, there's a lot of ambiguity. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Big word. There's a lot of ambiguity kind of baked into a lot of the relationships these chords have with one another. Mm-hmm. He mentioned B sus4 and E sus2 being comprised of the same notes in the triads, at least. Yeah. But there are other ambiguities here, and those ambiguities do a great job of keeping it from being boring.
Yeah. Right. There's motion.
Yeah.
And intrigue, motion and intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Oh yeah, I mean, again, those instruments I think sounded really good for a MIDI program, and I'm still not 100% sure what key this is in, Matt, because we look at the key signature, we see G major, right?
Well, we see 1 sharp.
I'm sorry, you're right.
And I tell my students all the time that the keys are not created by key signatures. It is the vice versa, right? Key signatures are created by keys. It is the vice versa. So don't assume G major just because you see 1 sharp.
So maybe
we have 1 sharp though. That is true.
Maybe this is a D mix, Mixolydian.
I would be okay with an argument that said at least the beginning was perhaps D Mixolydian, just because you have the D going to the minor 5 and A, and those notes would be diatonic to D mixolydian, right?
And a G major.
And a G major, but we don't see G major until later. Now later, I feel like after that sort of dissonant-ish transitional period, when we end up in it's kind of happier, is definitely a G major kind of feel. But then by the end, it sort of starts going into E minor pretty quickly too. And so D mixolydian, G major, E minor, all a key signature of 1 sharp.
Yes.
Does it? So yeah. Never look at a key signature and think, oh, that's G major. That's it. Yeah, no, it's not always that easy. I think what he's doing is and he told us verbatim that that he was playing around with modal colors, right?
Yes.
I mean, the composer has stated this, right? This is a sort of move around multiple modes that share a key signature, in addition to on a more surface level, maybe moving around modes that share a tonic. E minor versus E Phrygian, for example.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, good plan. What key is the whole thing in? I don't know. It starts in 1, goes into another, and then ends on a 3rd.
And the cool thing is, you get a sense of key change. You get a sense of change of mood and everything, but it's all the same key signature. So I just think that's pretty remarkable as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Eamon. Good job, man.
Thank you, Eamon.
So next up, we got a special one in my mind. A lot of the music you've heard, a lot of the bumper music was done. Most of the guitar, cool stuff that I can't do on guitar, I get my friend Jerome Chapman to do. Mm-hmm. And he submitted this to us because he thought it would be kind of a cool thing. It's kind of a special piece of music to me. I'm not even going to tell you the title because that will totally give it away. Stand by. I'm going to play the music and see what you guys think about it. Again, this is Jerome Chapman, one of our fine musicians who's helped us out so many times on this show. Okay.
Wow, that's some mighty fine picking.
I concur. So dig this. On November 2nd, 2013, I was to wed my wife, Heather. Jerry Chapman was going to be the chaplain. I call him Chaplain Chapman. But so we rented out this little kind of camp space that some friends of ours owned this piece of land, and we had kind of an outdoors wedding, kind of a camp over outdoors festival type wedding.
Yep.
So when we walked up the aisle, we actually went up there to Never Tear Us Apart by NXS, okay? Just the recording, just the song being played on a speaker. We went up there, we said our vows, And the plan was, as soon as we're kissing, and it went completely flawlessly. When we said I do, and we start kissing, Jerry puts down his book and picks up the guitar. And this is the piece he plays as we walk back down the aisle.
Very fitting.
So that was probably one of the most special moments in my life. I mean, it was just, I can't tell you how much that meant to me that Jerry pulled it off and everything just went so well. And I'll tell you what he said about it, okay?
Okay.
This is called Wedding Song. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yes, this is Wedding Song by Jerry Chapman. He says, for Wedding Song, I wanted something that was a mix between something kind of folk Irish and something kind of bluegrass. So I tuned my guitar to banjo tuning and started playing around with that and ended up with something amazing that really suited the musical taste of both Heather and Jeremy. I was inspired to write something for them that they would both enjoy. So you hear that droning drop D kind of thing he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that has the Celtic kind of feel to it. At the same time, the busyness of the banjo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The bluegrass and for her.
Yeah, and the open tuning of the banjo, which well, I love guitars not open tuning, but tuned to G, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
in this case, he's doing a D thing, right? He's in the key of D, so he's doing a drop D tuning. Well, I would say drop D, but it's also has some banjo-esque. I didn't get the exact tuning he used, but I think he just kind of improvised on the tuning and found something he really dug. But I know there was drop Ds involved. But the main A section is just basically moving around in that D, that one chord. And then I would say still part of the A section is this little kind of 4 to 1, 4, 1, 4, 1.
Sure, yeah.
5, 1.
Yep.
And then what I would
very bluegrassy.
Very bluegrassy. And what I would consider the what was maybe a B section is this kind of walk down from in a B minor.
Yep.
But there's a little bit of mixolydian. I think it might actually be doing like, that kind of thing. But either way, so that's the main feel of this piece. And now that you know a little bit more about it, why don't we listen to it one more time, shall we?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, one more time. Wedding Song by Jerome Chapman. It's joyous.
Yeah, it is joyous.
I like the reverb he has on it. It's very airy. There's that 4, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. I would still call this the A section if we're sectioning this off.
Return of the A section.
Okay, so yeah, maybe that was AABA or something like that.
Yeah. I would call this B.
Okay, I almost did that myself. This guy right here, the walk down. Kind of a new section here. That's that B minor moving down. G, A, D, 4, 5, 1. On that big old one chord, that big giant open down-tuned D string guitar, open D chord.
Right, yeah.
What a great piece, man.
Yeah, I like it. It's nice.
I don't have enough of that in my life right now. I used to really listen to a lot of bluegrass and country kind of music, and I think I need to get back into it a little bit.
No time like the present. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding, man. No kidding. But that just meant so much to me, and I don't think he screwed up at all on the wedding day. I think he picked up that book and he married us, and then he picked up that guitar and played us out. And there's a lot of pressure, man. There's a lot of pressure. But thanks again, Jerry, so much, man. That was just so special. All right. Now let us move on, shall we?
Indeed.
Now, I've been really excited about this one. Our friend Sharli Azulai out of Israel.
Friend of the show.
A great friend of the show. And one of our Patreon patrons, I might add.
And one of our Patreon patrons and Facebook group contributors and everything else. So.
And I should say that a lot of these people are Patreon patrons. And it's not because I'm playing that out of favoritism. It just so happens that it seems like the people that care enough about
the ones that send us music.
they're the ones who are really serious, and they're sitting down and actually making compositions compositions based on the things they learn on our show.
Yeah, which is awesome.
That's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, should we do the same kind of thing where we just go ahead and play this? And
let's just go ahead and play it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say a whole lot. I'm just going to let the mood take you guys.
We're just going to let the music do the talking here.
Let it do its thing. So, this is Dark Side of the Wood by Sharli Azulai. How awesome is that?
Nice. Very nice.
Oh, man. You know, I certainly got a feel for of inspiration for one of my favorite composers of all time. And I think you guys know who I'm talking about. You want to read what Sharli has to say about this?
Absolutely. Sharli says, Dark Side of the Wood was really inspired by Danny Elfman. And that's, Danny Elfman, Hans Zimmer, and a few more. This is probably one of my more favorite pieces of music, as I do feel like there's a good flow of story that evolves musically almost naturally. Yet at the same time, it does present different types of emotions, as you mentioned. This is something that I try to accomplish regularly and fail miserably most of the time. Don't feel too bad. We're all there often.
Yeah, you got back up and kept trying. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I was going to say been there, like that's in the past. I still regularly feel that way.
Being there.
Yeah. On the other hand, what you guys had taught me quite recently about modulating between scales and modes can definitely help accomplish something like that more consistently. I used mostly basic theory knowledge up to the point I started following your podcast, which is actually not long after I wrote this track. And I found myself many times doing something that sounds right, but due to my lack of theory knowledge, looked wrong. I had no idea what I did or how can I continue from there. Once in a while, I would ask a friend who studied music about something I wrote, and he would throw something like, oh, you did a secondary dominant there. And I'd be like, secondary who? Yeah, theorists, man. We're a fun bunch to. My girlfriend has in the past said to me point blank, "Please don't explain it." Anyway,
let us stay a mystery.
Let us stay. Yeah, just don't explain it.
Stay behind the curtain.
Yeah, but Sharli continues. Rest assured, now I got a lot of it covered thanks to you two. I actually told him to check out the podcast, and he said he's really enjoying it, which that's great.
Oh, nice.
So regarding the instruments, Sharli says, I work with a lot of different libraries, and I try to mix them up as much as possible. Above that, I always try and use the different features each library provides, especially when it comes to automation, which I use a lot. And actually, the main reason I dropped Cubase for Studio One a few years back.
Interesting.
So, yeah, definitely. So no live orchestration at all. Unfortunately, I can only play guitar, and even that's quarter decent. But I do record that once in a while. I want to know where those drum sounds are. Those are some great drum sounds.
No kidding. And those are those arpeggiating strings, the way he's pulling off the arpeggiating strings?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could probably do that kind of thing in Studio One, which can
but it sounded
serve as a VST. But it sounded so good, yeah.
It didn't sound like an arpeggiating effect is what I'm saying. It didn't sound like an arpeggiating.
No, it sounded like actual arpeggiating strings. So yeah, I would love to hear. We want to know more about your setup, Sharli.
Oh yeah, back to those drums. It sounds like Sharli was really being picky about the sounds. He's using a few different softwares and finding the best and the most the ones you can work with.
Absolutely.
I'm having a hard time forming my words today because of the coffee, but you know what I'm saying, man. You know what I'm saying.
Too much caffeine for Jeremy.
Too much caffeine.
So you got to learn how to handle it, man. Look at me. I'm drinking coffee until 4 p.m, and
Oh man. Well, anyway, back to Sharli. Back to Sharli. So this is a cool thing. It's kind of starting off with this kind of waltzy, and like I said, I thought immediately of the Dark Knight kind of Tim Burton Batman from the 90s.
The Danny Elfman, yeah.
So we had a D minor to moving to A minor. So this is a minor 5 in a key in a minor key, right? Normally, a lot of times people do this, the major, but in this case,
in popular music, more and more the requirement, as we would call it, in classical music to move to the major is less and less present. I would say in modern popular music, and I consider film music to be sort of modern popular music for all its inheritance in classical music. I would say that minor 5 is at least as common.
Oh yeah, we talked about this recently.
Oh yeah, and you can make an argument that it's even more common, really. The sort of the way classical music requires the major 5 in a minor key is just not. It's just that requirement is just not present.
Right. So this whole progression is like we got the 1, dun 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 5.
Yep.
Bum 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 again 5, and then we had this B flat,
and then deceptive to B flat, right?
And then back to 1. That's a 6, going back to 1.
Yep.
And then this is interesting. We have an E major, and now it feels 5-y to me, right?
It feels 5 of 5-y to me.
Yes. Okay. So it's 5 of 5 because normally in D minor, the 2 chord would be diminished. Instead, this is a major chord, right?
Right.
E major.
Yeah.
Although it does not resolve to 5, it goes back to D minor. So what happened there? That's where the strings come in, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's a very Danny Elfman thing to just leave us hanging that way.
Uh-huh.
Right. And he does that. I think you affect a great deal of mystery and a sense of, where did that 5 of 5 go, right?
Uh-huh.
When you do that, because when you return to your original chord progression, you are not returning to something that is unfamiliar, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've heard those chords before, so it doesn't sound like you abandoned your chord progression. It sounds like at some point. It sounds like there's this chord progression that you would have gone down. So there's like this other world going down the progression that you're going down. So you get this sense of unsettledness and sense of mystery. Like I said, it's a very Danny Elfman thing to do. It's just great.
Yeah.
It's just great. It affects that sense of even though we're in this world that we nominally recognize, there's something very weird about it because we missed any kind of resolution to what is effectively a 5/5 chord.
Yeah. I mean, just to have that 2 going to the 1.
Yeah, I don't even think of it as 2 going to 1. I think of it as just that chord progression starting over, right? Yeah. And then when we get it again, I mean, B flat to 1 is B flat to D minor is fairly advanced, right? I mean, that's a Riemannian transformation, right? A neo-Riemannian transformation. And then when we get the E, we expect the E to then move on to A for a legitimate half cadence. But a half cadence can end on a lot of things, Yeah,
right.
And when we get E again, it's in the course of E minor, and we get that moving to C, another neo-Riemannian kind of transformation kind of thing.
On the second part you're talking about?
Yeah. And so we just never get satisfied. It's just kind of wandered and meandered through these contrapuntally well-trod sort of paths that harmonically are not classical tonal harmony, right? But this is what we're talking about in American film music and in American music in general. I mean, its inheritance is classical music, but it's sort of redefining the rules a lot,
Sure.
So the next time we get E, it's not in the context of that 5/5. It's in the context of a minor. So that is, and we get this sense of just wandering these paths, and wandering through these chord progressions, which again, very, very film music-esque, very, very Danny Elfman, playing to the genre very, very well. I think, I could easily hear this in a Tim Burton movie or, something like it.
And it's the perfect length to cover a montage scene. Like if this is the beginning of the movie where our winged hero is flying through, or getting into his car and cruising through the caves or whatever.
Sure. Well, so many of Tim Burton's movies are nominally set in the normal world, but it's the normal world very much weirdified.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And this chord progression is a normal chord progression nominally, but it's a normal chord progression very much weirdified. So it fits, right?
And listen to how we get into C minor. We start off with the D minor. We end up going to the B flat, which is 6, and then the G minor, which is the 4, and then back to A, which is a proper 5. I guess what you call a full, or with that major third.
Yeah.
And then we end up to E minor, to C, back on that A minor, and then just a regular B major, and somehow that goes to C minor, and we end in C minor. But somehow that works as well. When I played it on the piano just now, it didn't seem to work as well, right?
Well, yeah. What I'm seeing here is a lot of movement by third, right? Mm-hmm. This is something that started happening in the 19th century and has defined a lot of triadic music in the 20th century, which is not movement around the circle of fifths like we see in Mozart or Haydn, but movement by third, D minor to B flat major to G minor, moving down by third, right?
Yeah.
And then only when we've managed to get ourselves to G minor, the minor 4, do we have a phrase ending cadential progression G4/5, right? And then the same thing, E minor to C major to A minor, moving downward by third.
Yeah.
So we're moving along thirds, not moving along fifths. And then again, only when we get to that 6 do we have what is, at least in popular music, a phrase ending cadential movement 6-7-1, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you could make the argument, I think, that D minor to B flat to G minor is, in a deeper sense, a long, prolonged, predominant 4 chord, right?
I like that.
In which we took each note of that 4 chord, G, B flat, and D, and made it its own key center for a while, starting with D, key center, the 5th of the chord, down to the 3rd of the chord, B flat, key center, or chord center, if not key center, made it its own chord that we stayed on for a while. D, B flat chord, and then G minor's chord. So we affected a downward arpeggiation of 4 just over a long period of time, right?
Yeah.
So this uber chord is 4, moving to A, moving 4 or 5.
The many small chords that make up an uber chord.
Yeah.
That's new one to me.
Well, that's Schenkerian thinking.
Oh, he said he came up with uber chord?
I don't think he came up with uber chord. I think that's I think that's a Matthew Scott Phillips original.
That's what I'm talking about, my man. That's what I'm talking about.
But that's the kind of thinking that Schenkerian analysis calls on. So yeah, beautiful chord progression. A lot to unpack in what seems like a fairly simple chord progression, right?
Charlie, did you realize how Schenkerian you were being?
That's what a good theorist will do.
Hey, well, let's hear this one more time, shall we? Now that we know a little bit more about it.
Yes.
Okay, you ready? Again, this is Dark Side of the Wood by Sharli Azulai. We're kind of establishing the key, right? This is the first section.
D minor to A minor, 1-5.
Uh-huh. A very good way to establish a key, even without the major 5 chord.
Yeah.
And
5 of 5. Then kind of again disappears.
And here's that atmosphere with the strings coming in. Very powerful. Very full. Again, there's that E major chord in the key of D minor.
And then again, it kind of disappears.
Uh-huh. Now this is where the Elfman-ness comes in. It's on, baby. So energetic.
B flat.
Yeah, right. And this G minor.
G minor. So this is 4.
And there's that 5. Now we're at that E minor.
Yeah.
And a C major. This is the continuing to move down thirds. A minor. And this is that B major chord. And then going to our C minor. And now we find ourselves in C
minor.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have modulated to C minor.
Yeah.
Via, what's a good pivot chord here? Via 5 interpret, not 5 interpreted as 3, probably, that's hard to say.
yeah, right. But it sounded great. So what are you going to do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, wow. That C minor is eventually going to have to make its way back to D minor somehow, I feel like.
You think so? You felt kind of, it still didn't feel like it was at a resting place?
Right. There's very little harmonic rest in this chord progression.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's supposed to feel a little unsettled, right?
Yeah.
You know?
What's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
What are we about to watch? What are we about to see?
Yep.
I just thought that was just a very powerful piece of music and very well done. And hats off to you. Well done.
Indeed.
Now we're running into a bit of a dilemma here, Matt, because we're well into this show, and we still have a couple more that I wanted to play for this show, but I'm starting to realize that though some people do have a 2-hour commute, a lot of people might not want that much. It's we don't want to spread these pieces thin, right?
I mean, we have listeners that drive big rigs, and but at the same time,
I think that what this means is Adam House, your piece Sabotage, that's on my brain. Mm-hmm. Passy Pasiala, that piece has been going
on our mind.
Your piece, that piece, it's been going through my head constantly. So there's a fine hook in there. We're going to hear that at some point, rather it be episode 91-A, or we can actually save them for listener compositions part 4. May that be episode 100 or whatever shortly thereafter.
Right. Yeah. The important thing is we have not forgotten about you. We're going to get to that. We are going to get to the ones we didn't get to today. We promise.
Exactly. But to close out, we have another song. And
Yay.
Like we say, we don't talk over the songs, but we're going to talk a little bit about this one before we get out of here.
Okay.
So taking us out will be our good friend Keith Andrews.
Keith.
Now, we met Keith Andrews in episode 76.
Uh-huh.
It was transcribing a song. The idea was to take a piece of music and put it on paper with notation.
Dewey and Dora.
And Dewey and Dora, that was the one. However, we have not featured Keith on our listener compositions episode, so I think this will be a fun opportunity to do so, because he, like our friend Badri, is very prolific and is always writing, and they'll send us something cool, and they'll send us something cooler, and it's like, well,
right.
It's kind of hard to pick which ones to play. But so this is a piece that Keith wrote and went ahead and got it recorded in the studio, and it sounds fantastic as far as production value goes. It starts off with these cool kind of trippy effects that you're going to hear. It's a song called Satellite. Okay, so that kind of explains a little bit of what, some of these funky sounds. And I always like it when people integrate with acoustic music or any kind of music some of these strange sound effects. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I've always been kind of a big fan of that technique. It starts off with a ukulele. We're in the key of C major, and you're going to hear this familiar kind of walk down as you C, E minor, and then F to G. So it's a 1, kind of a 3, 4 to 5. It's one of those things where the C holds itself, and the bass walks down. You hear it?
Yeah,
anyway.
Absolutely.
And there's a kind of a cool little kick drum feel that kind of keeps the energy moving throughout the song.
Oh yeah.
And I got to compliment his voice. I really think I just like the timbre of it. It's kind of like, I think we talked about that before. It's like a polished Bob Dylan. It's like
a polished Bob Dylan
singing properly. It's like the timbre of his voice has a Bob Dylan feel to it.
Like if Bob Dylan could actually sing.
I wasn't gonna say that, but since you said it, that's kind of what I.
Oh no!
Sorry, Bob.
Don't at me, Bob Dylan fans. I love Bob Dylan. I love Bob Dylan. I really do.
Indeed. So, anyways, and then the chorus, it goes to a 6. You'll hear this kind of that kind of thing. So it's a 6 to a 5 to a 4.
Right.
Kind of thing.
And I encourage you again. And we talked a lot when we transcribed his song Dewey and Dora. We talked a lot about the meaning of the lyrics over the chord progressions and how those two things kind of came together, right?
Yeah.
Or did we? It was mainly about transcribing the song, I think. But
we did cover that. And I think it takes a very perceptive artist to use techniques like that, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. And his perceptiveness and skill with that kind of thing is on display here too. So as you listen, I would encourage you to think about, how the chord progression and the lyrics reinforce each other and how the meaning of the song is consistent over them. He didn't just write random chord progressions and random lyrics. These two things go together.
And earlier we were talking about music, like movie soundtrack kind of feel. To me, this could be the beginning of a like a romantic comedy. Ben Stiller's Ben Stiller's getting up and brushing his teeth vigorously
on a satellite.
Maybe he's in outer space. But anyways, it's just got that ukulele feel. You know, a lot of movies in the past 10 years have featured that ukulele kind of feel.
It has become the instrument of whimsy.
Whimsy, yes.
Whereas the piano has become the instrument of drama and sadness and heavy emotion.
Yeah.
And longing. Those used to be the strings back in the 50s, but now it is the piano, and the ukulele is the instrument of whimsy.
And as we know,
for some reason,
and as we all know, the bass is the instrument of cool.
Yeah.
Simple as that, right?
Right.
We didn't mention that we both are bass players. I don't think.
Have we mentioned that? I don't remember.
I don't think we probably should more often if we don't. Okay. Well. We talked about this song enough. Let's go ahead and listen to it, shall we?
Yep.
So this is Satellite by Keith Andrews.
Well, it's all good. It's fine tonight on this artificial satellite. Sitting here looking down 1,000 miles above the ground on this satellite. Well, all the cities look the same from here on the outer layer of the atmosphere. Could be London, could be Tokyo, or Sao Paulo for all I know on this satellite. Well, round and round and round I go, stars above, clouds below, all the world passing by, my little white light in the sky. Passing over land and sea, losing any sense of geography, seeing only shades and hues, the browns and greens and whites and blues on this satellite. I got the moon, I got the stars, well I got Jupiter and I got Mars. They come around once an hour or two from this interplanetary point of view on this satellite. Well, round and round and round I go, stars above, clouds below,